Welcome to Authentic with Brazil 201. I'm your host, Brazil 201, and on today's episode, we're going to talk about both The Housemaid and Is This Thing On? One of these movies is not very good. It's good, okay? The other movie gave me motion sickness. And if you watch the other movie, it's going to give you motion sickness, and I'm very confused as to why all the choices that are made in that other movie. So first, we're going to talk about The Housemaid. The Housemaid is a horror movie starring Amanda Seyfried, Sydney Sweeney, and the guy who played Atlas in It Ends With Us. So the movie starts off with Sydney Sweeney crying in a Honda Civic. Apparently, she's broke. She just got out of jail. We don't know why she was in jail. And she is going to a job interview for in Amanda Seyfried's house to be a live-in maid where you cook, you clean, you do the dishes, all the other type of bullshit. Amanda Seyfried's character seems like your standard rich, waspy, hot white girl. She has a 7-year-old daughter, and she hints to Sydney Sweeney's character that she is expecting with child. She leaves. She's like, I'll call you back. I'm interviewing other people. We see that Sydney Sweeney gets showered in a gas station bathroom, and uh, she eats at a diner. She sleeps in her car. She gets a call. She got the job. Okay, she's surprised because I guess that she thought like, oh, I guess Amanda Seyfried's character didn't run a background check. She just like assumed everything was fine because she's a hot white girl. Fair expectations, that's the game is the game. So Amanda Seyfried shows the attic where she'll be living, which is very small and kind of creepy. Has a bed and a mini fridge with 3 waters. She puts her stuff in, and when she wakes up the next day, she sees the house is a mess, kind of confused, and Amanda Seyfried begins yelling at Sydney Sweeney's character, saying, "You threw out my PTA papers," and a bunch of other shit, and begins to like having these schizophrenic freakouts against Sydney Sweeney. Sydney Sweeney goes into the bathroom of Amanda's character, and we learn that she suffers from schizophrenia and she's not taking her meds. Right? She sees the meds spit out in the toilet, so which begins to like, oh, she's schizophrenic and blah blah blah. Um, Atlas, and I'm gonna just keep calling the guy Atlas because in my mind he's Atlas. Atlas is, kind of flirtatious with Sydney Sweeney. Obviously, it's Sydney Sweeney. Giant rack, great eyebrows, one of the hottest white women alive. We get it, okay? So this movie kind of plays out like your standard Lifetime movie, right? Hot, hot white girl invites the live-in maid that's a hotter, younger white girl. Of course, the husband is eventually gonna fuck her, right? That's the tale as old as time, okay? The younger, hotter girl is always gonna end up fucking the husband. Sydney Sweeney's character has a sex dream about him, and then we learn she has to go pick up the daughter from ballet class, and the one of the other nannies at the ballet class learned is like, oh, no one makes fun of her because like the mother's crazy and a bunch of other shit, and that apparently she tried to kill her daughter when she was younger. Then we see the Alice's mom is there and with some fine china that like is a family heirloom, and the mother's like, make sure she cleans well. This house looks like a mess, even though it's spotless. And then not Amanda, Sydney Sweeney hangs out with the daughter a lot because they go away to a fertility clinic because they're getting IVF, and the daughter's like, you don't have to pretend to be my friend. I know you don't like me, and they play house. And in the house, because within the house, they have a dollhouse that's a sculpture of like the actual house they live in. And in the attic part of the dollhouse, there's a blonde woman that's like just locked up and trapped there. Then what happens next? Oh, Amanda Seyfried's like, you know what? Book a weekend at a fancy hotel, this Broadway show and everything, because I guess we're gonna celebrate and just try to get our mind off of it. You keep the weekend to yourself. The next day, Amanda Seyfried's character is like, fuck you, you overcharged. This is the weekend I'm supposed to go away to visit my mother or some type of shit like that. And She yells at her in front of Atlas. Atlas is like, don't worry about it. I'll get the charges reversed. Some shit happens. Day passes. She's going away. Atlas tells her, I couldn't get the charges reversed. Go take your friend. And Sydney Sweeney's like, I don't have any friends. And they go together. They enjoy the Broadway show. They have dinner at the Polo Lounge. And they're both drunk. And their hotel rooms are adjacent. She gets a bunch of angry text messages from Amanda Seyfried because the phone died. She shows the text to Atlas crying. And then they have hot sex. Okay, very, very hot sex. And it's crazy. Then they're driving together and they're like, she can never know. And then they have hot sex again. And then when she goes to pick up the daughter from school, no, she goes grocery shopping. And no, she picks up the daughter from ballet school. And the person tells her, oh, you took the phone? Don't you know that the phones have some type of watch with location GPS so they know where you are at all time? Which means, oh shit, she knows they cheated. And then she goes grocery shopping to get food, but the Amanda Seyfried tells the cops the car's stolen. Alice comes and says, no, the car's stolen. It's a misunderstanding. And Amanda yells at Sydney Sweeney, and Alice kicks out Amanda Seyfried, and they drive away. Then they just sex montage. And she accidentally breaks the china. She gets locked in, and then we learn Atlas is really evil and locks Sydney Sweeney in the attic. Then we flash back, which is our first twist, to Amanda Seyfried, who was like just a paralegal who just had a kid, was broke, and how she meets Atlas, and it was true love at first, blah blah blah, and then how she was locked in the attic because she didn't get her roots done or some shit, and that Atlas was very controlling, locked her in the thing for like 2 weeks, sent her to an insane asylum, brought her back, sent her to another insane asylum again to make her submissive. And to escape, she learns like I have to bring a new woman in that he makes me leave because he wants a new woman. And that's how she gets Sydney Sweeney to get the job and all of it because it was all a part of her master plan. And then we flash forward to Sydney Sweeney in the attic, and we learn Sydney Sweeney murdered someone in her private school when she was 17 because he was raping her roommate, and no one believed her. So Sydney Sweeney does what he tells her to do, which is like stab herself 21 times with the china. But she sees in the closet that a knife was hidden there by Amanda Seyfried's character. So she hides it, pretends she's sleeping. Atlas comes in, she stabs him in the neck. And then she locks him in the attic. And she does the same thing to him, except you gotta remove your tooth. And she's like gonna set it on gasoline on fire and crazy. And he's like bleeding. And Amanda Seyfried feels guilty. So she comes back to the house and thinks that Sydney Sweeney's still locked in the attic. She's not. He breaks out. And Atlas tries to kill Sydney Sweeney and Amanda Seyfried. And he does this entire speech to Amanda Seyfried because he thinks Sydney escaped. Sydney Sweeney comes out of nowhere, pushes Atlas down the 5 flights of stairs and cracks his neck open. And there you go. The movie's end, and the movie ends that way. Fun movie, 4 twists, did not expect it. Very enjoyable. Sydney Sweeney still looks fucking amazing naked. There we go. We then go to the other movie, which gave me motion sickness, which is This Thing On, which is Bradley Cooper's 3rd directorial movie after A Star is Born and Maestro, which are both fantastic movies. This movie has too much close-ups, and it's all over the shoulder like shots where it's like basically Bradley Cooper was in whoever's face. First of all, another movie, 2 movies in a row that show marriage is an outdated concept. So in this movie, Will Arnett and Laura Dern, they've been married for 20 years. It's just one of those marriages that, you know, don't cut it anymore and gonna end, right? Amicable marriage, gonna end up in divorce, whatever. They have 2 10-year-olds, but they're not twins. They're Irish twins. And apparently Laura Dern was an Olympic athlete for the U.S. volleyball team. This is like a key thing, whatever. And she misses like coaching volleyball or working in volleyball. And Will Arnett is now divorced, lives in some shitty, not actually, no, he lives in some nice apartment on West 12th Street. And like, it's the standard co-parenting situation where like 3 days a week the kids are with Will Arnett, and 3 days a week they're with Laura Dern in fucking Westchester. Um, this is the part of this is where Outside the Way it's shot that I'm so confused. Is so I'm in New York, okay, and this is where if you're not from New York, this part of the movie's not going to bother you. But if you are from New York and you've been to the Comedy Cellar, you know one of two things: A, the Comedy Cellar does not do open mics. It is not for up and coming comics at all. It is for establishment comics. Okay, this is where people from SNL and Seinfeld and Bill Maher, etc., perform. This is not where I want to be a comedian and I'm going to try out. That's not how it works. Next, to get into the Comedy Cellar, whether you have to, it's a massive line. There's no just walking into the Comedy Cellar. Two, the way the open mics are, you don't just write your name down on a list and boom, you go up. But somehow this works. This is the part where you're supposed to disbelieve, and it works. And oh, I forgot. The movie opens with some like fucking the lunar New Year with a lion for whatever reason. That happens. I forgot. Yeah, flashing forward on this. He does stand up. He's very bad at it, but he feels good about it. And for whatever reason, the stand-ups there kind of like him. Okay, sure, I guess. Then, we have another time jump, and Laura Dern's character gets an offer to like coach the Olympics, or like to begin trying to coach the Olympics because the Olympics are here in 2 years. And we meet Bradley Cooper's character, who's very, by the way, the only time the movie shot well is when it's on Bradley Cooper. So maybe I'm learning Bradley Cooper can only direct movies that actually have Bradley Cooper as a star in the movie. And Bradley Cooper's character is kind of like a drug addict who's an actor, and he pops into the movie once every like 25 minutes, is funny, and then disappears again. And he does this 3 times. Oh, I forgot about this part. Right. It is adult dinner between um what is his name? Jack from Will and Grace, his husband, that is some guy that we never learned the character. Bradley Cooper, Bradley Cooper's wife, Laura Dern, and Will Arnett. And also Will Arnett's like a rich finance guy. Yeah. But we never see him like go to work ever. He's just always in a suit picking up the kids or whatever. So that happens. And Will Arnett's mother lives somewhat close to Laura Dern's house in Westchester because they meet each other on runs. That happens. Very very confusing. Yeah. So that happens. Will Arnett's becoming a more better comedian, I guess. And the hot chick at the Comedy Cellar ends up fucking Will Arnett, and we see that Will Arnett kind of has abs. Okay, yeah, and also still the motion sickness with this movie. Like, congrats on the sex, Will Arnett. Then Laura Dern goes on a date with Peyton Manning, who is, I think, playing Peyton Manning, but this Peyton Manning is also like co-coaching the Olympic women's volleyball team. And on this date, they go to the Comedy Cellar the night Will Arnett is headlining. And Will Arnett does all these jokes saying how like he hates his marriage and that marriages just don't work and it's an outdated concept and blah 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 blah, and how his wife sucked the happiness out of him and she's a bitch and blah 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 blah. And so then Peyton Manning and Laura Dern leave because you think, oh, because she hears that Will Arnett had sex with some new hot chick. So she leaves with Peyton Manning, and you think, oh, she's gonna fuck Peyton Manning. Will Arnett is about to leave, and the girl he fucked was like, yo, you did this joke in front of your wife, man. He's like, what? And we see the wife, and they have this complicated conversation, and then they have sex, and they're secretly having an affair. And then there's this whole Oyster Bay subplot that apparently once a year they go out to Bradley Cooper's house in Oyster Bay, and they're like secretly there, and I'm just like confused about this whole Oyster Bay subplot. Then we hear that he's got an audition for a Taylor Sheridan show in Texas, and he's like, yo, I want to get divorced. You inspired me to get divorced because we all know marriages don't work. And I'm like, yeah, obviously, like we all know most marriages don't work. We've all, gone to wedding for like over under 7 years. Like most marriages don't work. I mean, look at Ariana Grande, right? Rich, hot. She left her husband for that fucking ugly ginger dude who also left his wife and newborn for Ariana Grande. Upgrade for him, downgrade for her. Though I have no idea if they're still dating. So that happens. And he's just doing comedy. And then Bradley Cooper comes back and he's like, yo, he's got a new mustache. And he's like, I did the Taylor Sheridan show and I'm happy. And okay. And Laura Dern gets offered to be the head coach of the volleyball team for the Olympics. And then it ends with Under Pressure performed by their kids at the gym festival. And that's how the movie ends. There's absolutely nothing that happens in this movie that is relevant at all. That is the movie. A lot of it, like I think an hour and a half of this movie takes place in the Comedy Cellar. Fascinating. Very fascinating movie. That is awful and got me sick because the way it's shot just bad.